All-night diner booth 7, promise on the napkin. The all-night diner 3 blocks from the river keeps the kind of faith most churches envy. It hums. It forgives. It puts a slice of light on the sidewalk like a modest invitation and lets you decide whether you're brave enough to take it. At 1:52 a.m., I pushed through the door, and the bell above it announced me without asking for a biography. I set my phone face down in my palm, the way you set a coin on a table you're not ready to spend, and slid into booth 7, the one under the framed photograph of a long-gone softball team that looks like it could still beat you. Back home, Ethan had said, "Can we talk tomorrow?" in the voice that meant please stay now. Our couch knows how to make a courtroom out of a living room if you let it. I left before either of us picked a side. Halfway down the stairs, my screen lit up with a message from Elle. Live in the company directory, Elle in the way I label hazards to make them look smaller. Rooftop, just talk. Roofs are great at forgiveness you don't have to live with. I didn't open it. I put the phone in my left pocket, the pocket I use for things that are supposed to make it home. The room smelled like coffee, griddle, and choices. A trucker at the counter stirred his cup as if it were a stubborn argument. 2 nurses in scrub jackets split a slice of pecan pie the way people split a debt. The jukebox in the corner blinked its little neon eyelids and did not insist on being played. The pie case rotated with the confidence of an idea that has already been voted on. My name is Miles. By day I fix other people's paragraphs. By night I try not to turn my own into weapons. Ethan and I have a code that works when we remember it. T means come here, you up means I'm scared, tomorrow means not yet but don't go far. Liv returned to our project last month with files so neat they made hesitation look like style. She never asked for anything. That was how I started bringing her everything. You look like a man auditioning to be a menu, the waitress said, appearing with a pot of coffee that smelled like a small, essential mercy. Her name tag read Ruth. You want the house special or the right thing? What's the difference? I asked. The special fills you, she said. The right thing behaves. She poured without waiting for permission and set a napkin on the table with the gravity of a document. 3 words, she added, tapping the napkin. On the back. Why are you in booth 7 at this hour without an appetite? 3 words is cruel, I said. That's why it works, she said, pencil poised. It keeps people from delivering speeches to the silverware. I write one for every shift. Helps the coffee remember where it's going. On the back of the napkin I wrote, proud at breakfast. Under it, smaller, touch before arguing. The pencil dug a little valley through the fibers and made the words look like they had somewhere to be. Ruth glanced at the napkin and nodded like a person who knew what patents were for. Good, she said. Now if the pie tries to recruit you, you can decline with context. She set the pot on the table and pointed with her pencil toward the register. We keep a lost and found for sentences near the till. People leave lines. The night dries them. Morning finds them when it's ready. Do you live with someone who trusts kettles? She asked, refilling the trucker's cup as if that were also part of my answer. He puts the kettle on before he looks for proof, I said. I keep making proof climb stairs. Stairs are for cardio, not evidence, she said. Eat the right thing. What's the right thing? Toast, she said. 2 slices. Butter is the second best lubricant for apologies. She scribbled on her pad. You want the pep talk or the instructions while you wait? Instructions, I said. Fix the obvious, she said, ticking off with the pencil. Label what you can't. Tighten to spec, not to ego. We use that on the milk steamer. Works on people. Ruth vanished the way professionals do and returned with toast, butter, and the kind of patience that invites you to tell the truth with smaller words. I put the napkin in my left pocket with my phone and watched the butter turn the toast into a map that made sense. My phone buzzed. "Already on the roof," Liv wrote, attaching a photo of a skyline that would never meet our kettle. I replied, "Not tonight or tomorrow. I'd like to be proud of breakfast." I didn't wait for dots. The left pocket kept its jurisdiction. "Good sentence," Ruth said, sliding a little ceramic lemon across the table. It was a magnet, the kind you put on a fridge to hold a permission slip. "Promotional item," she said. "For when you get home. Cold helps letters behave." "What do you do when people cry?" I asked, because the trucker at the counter had not touched his coffee in a while, and in this room that counted as news. "I keep my eyes," she said, "unless they look at me. Then I hand them water. Kindness at this hour is often not interrupting." She tapped the lemon. "Sometimes it's interrupting yourself." A bell in the kitchen dinged with the authority of a punctuation mark no one argues with. Ruth slid a plate of toast into the booth like a settlement. "Do you want to see the jar?" she asked. The jar sat in a little altar next to the register between the toothpicks and a dish of pennies. It was full of folded scraps, receipt corners, ticket stubs, grocery list edges. I pulled one that said check pressure before speed block letters, firm like a wrist that had learned something. Another read ask before summarizing ME. I left re-entering isn't surrender, and added stop at the shoulder, not the ditch with Ruth's pencil. "You can leave water by the jar," Ruth said, setting a bottle next to it with the flourish of a magician who has decided not to use the hat. "People who wait for sisters come through here around 3. The doorbell rang again. A man in a municipal jacket with reflective strips sat 2 booths over with a cup he wasn't ready to drink. He smiled when Ruth refilled it, which is a kind of handshake with the night. "I'm Miles," I said, because it seemed fair to introduce myself to the room that had already made space for me. "Ruth," she said, "I used to clock out at midnight, then I realized I'm more use after. People get braver when the pie is tired." She pointed a chin toward my pocket. "Your house will ask you the real question. Answer once. Don't expand. Expansion is a daylight sport." I paid in cash because I wanted the receipt. Ruth made change without comment and slid the napkin back toward me as if to remind it of its duties. "Booth 7's your timeout phrase now," she said. "Use it when prosecution starts trying to wear a bathrobe." Outside, the cold had that honest neighborhood tone that makes roofs look like they could keep their promises. I carried the lemon and the napkin home like small officials. The fridge hummed like a machine that had read my file and chosen to believe me anyway. Ethan was sitting on the floor with his back to the door, sleeves pushed to his elbows, one ankle across the other. The posture manuals use when they draw people who are about to fix things. He tilted his head, a question mark turned polite. "Diner," I said. I smoothed the napkin on the door and let the lemon hold it. "Do you want to ask the real question?" He took a breath like it had instructions attached. "Are you lonely?" "Some nights," I said. "Not here. Not when you ask first. Not when the kettle outruns the script." I took his wrist and placed his hand on my forearm the way he does when he's checking whether I'm inventing weather. He nodded. "I feel useful," he said. "I want to be wanted before I'm useful." "Tonight's procedure," I said. "Touch first, argue second, report later." We sat until the kettle's blunt kindness announced itself. We poured water over mint and called it dinner because sometimes names are mercies. We ate toast like it was a new technology. I told him about Ruth and the napkin rule, about the jar of sentences at the register, about fix, label, Titan printed in a kitchen font. I told him I had texted Liv that she was a handsome roof in a neighborhood that needed kitchens. He smiled into his mug like a person learning to say thank you to a bridge. He took the dry erase marker from the cup by the fridge and wrote under the lemon, "Tomorrow, keep the torque." He grinned at himself. The lemon looked like a tiny, citrus seal that knew its job. We built a tiny ritual. When panic tried to turn questions into prosecution, one of us said booth 7 and we paused. We kept responses to 5 words on the whiteboard: T now, REASONS later. Ask, don't summarize me. No litigation tonight. I snapped a photo of the lemon and the napkin for the diner's overnight email. Ruth had scrawled it on a blank order slip and got back an image of a post-it on a stainless panel. Titan 2 spec, not to ego. I printed it small and slid it under the magnet. I am not proud of how much authority cold appliances have over my behavior. I am grateful. Days did the thing days do when you're trying to be an amateur human with professional consistency. The napkin in my pocket wrinkled into the shape of my left hand. Paper learns its carriers. When it gave up, I wrote the same words on the back of the check from a coffee I hadn't needed and stapled the old to the new like genealogy. Sometimes on the late bus, I draft messages I don't send. They begin, "I didn't ask because I thought that counted as kindness," and end, "May your gate call your name and may your breakfast go right." The not sending feels like a skill I borrowed from fluorescent lights and clean floors. A week later, when afternoon tried to be a test, I walked back to the diner and bought nothing. I left a bottle of water beside the jar with a note, "For whoever is waiting for a sister." The sentences had multiplied. Someone had added "turn" toward your name in the firm handwriting of a person who writes rarely and means it when they do. When I got home, Ethan had angled the table so we could both look out the window without interrogating the weather. He had set out 2 mugs and a lemon like an altar to simple chemistry. "Status?" he asked. "On board," I said, hands attached. We failed, and we failed differently, and we failed in ways that didn't require anyone to stand at a counter pretending they knew which kind of pie would save them. The lemon stayed where it was and did not pretend to be a compass. The fridge hummed like a machine content with its job description. If tomorrow I stumble, and I will, this town sells the same napkin stack to everyone. I know the route. Stop at the shoulder, not the ditch. Read the pocket, not the skyline. Ask the question that costs pride and saves time. Pay for the return with a short sentence. Go home by the simple route. Being first has never impressed a kettle, a magnet, or a mouth burned by tea. Arriving with hands still does. The diner hums wherever it hums at that hour. Booth 7 keeps being ridiculous and useful. The jar keeps its scraps. Under the lemon, the napkin keeps pretending to be stronger than it is and most nights manages it. Some nights that counts as a miracle. Some mornings it counts as breakfast.